The end one year and the beginning of another is always a time recapitulation. Over holidays. In freezing cold winter. A sacred season for many for rise of humanity, rebirth, peace and faith. I watched Russia's escalating air missile attacks on Ukraine. This reminded me those terrible photographs, pregnant woman being carried on a stretcher after maternity hospital in Mariupol, Ukraine. At the beginning war, almost 2 years ago. Later, both the woman and her newborn baby. I think there are some things that need to be fixed in the new year. One is to renew our collective determination to support Ukraine in the brutal war of aggression and attrition launched by Russia. Reflecting on the war in Ukraine made me remember when I was a young naval officer conducting Baltic Sea operations 30 years ago. I wanted to think about what this experience taught me and what it means for the current conflict. At that time in history, it hadn't been long after Berlin Wall had fallen at end of Cold War. And I was excited to visit Baltic countries, which had just gained independence from former Soviet territories. One of the first countries we visited was Klaipeda, Lithuania. We managed to get to the pier and open the ship visitors. That first day I was the commanding officer and the crowd was huge. They wanted to visit a United States ship and meet Americans. I helped an old lady up her forehead. He presented the deckhand with carefully selected wildflowers. Since he could not walk any further, I accompanied him to the wardroom for a cup of kindness. She said she hadn't seen her brother since he immigrated to Chicago at the end of World War II. He showed me one of her letters and was extremely proud of the U.S. postmark. I sent on her way with some flowers of own. The next day I was invited along with our chief engineer on a trip out of town with our Lithuanian Navy counterparts. They picked us up in an old Trabant model car, which was widely used in East Germany. On way, car broke down and chief engineer of Lithuanian Navy opened hood, rolled up his sleeves and set about repairing car. We were soon back on our way, even though it was early 1990s. Looking at shop windows and cars on narrow streets, it felt like we were back in 1950s. What I remember most about day was the overwhelming friendliness and humble hospitality of our hosts and an event that I witnessed firsthand. Day. Explore all your options. We came across a statue of Jesus raised on a pedestal. I asked to get out car, witnessed the installation of statue, and spoke to a small gathering village officials. As I was told, the statue had been hidden for almost 50 years because it was not allowed to be exhibited during the Soviet period. That day, the statue was being returned to its rightful place. When I thought about this later, it came down to freedom and democracy. At least for me. I didn't care what religion you practiced or what God you prayed to. For the right and freedom to follow one's religious beliefs.